Hello, everybody. Planetary mixers. When I heard that term yesterday for the first time, I thought, man, this must be something space age. Rare earth metals involved here. But actually, planetary mixer is the name of a common appliance that many of you may have in your kitchens. You can get them at Bed Bath & Beyond or Williams and Sonoma or Home Depot. But it appears that these same planetary mixers, but on a much larger scale, are required to make what's called solid rocket fuel, the kind that's used to make long-range ballistic missiles, which were used by Iran to attack Israel on the two occasions in April, as well as in October 1st. And if you can take out that solid rocket fuel process, you can inhibit Iran's ability to make long-range ballistic missiles. And therefore, as it relates to Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran a couple nights ago, the greatest accomplishment to come out of it, and we've seen this in the last few hours now that the dust has settled and satellite imagery has been released of the site. Which site am I referring to? The site of Iran's, or one of Iran's most secretive ballistic missile manufacturing sites in what's called Parchin, just outside of Tehran. And Israel is said, and the imagery here confirms it, to have taken out this key manufacturing center of the long-range ballistic missiles that Iran used to attack Israel previously and would likely use to attack Israel again. Now, these planetary mixers, again, a common object in most of your kitchens, but the larger kind that Iran was using to make its solid rocket fuel for its ballistic missiles were imported from China. And Israel is said to have taken out 20 of these mixers, and it would take up to 2 years to replace them. And therefore, in Israel's strike 2 nights ago, Israel has likely set back Iran's ballistic missile production cycle by 2 years. And that's important, and that not only furthers Israel's own security, but America and the Western world's interests as well. For these same long-range ballistic missiles have been sent by Iran to Russia for Russia's use in its war with Ukraine. And now that Israel's taken out that integral center in the production cycle of these ballistic missiles, it not only sets Iran back a couple years, but it's also now caused a problem for the future supply of Russian forces with these ballistic missiles that would be used again in its war against Ukraine. So I'm sure the United States was very happy that Israel took out this center here in Parchin. Now, we have to ask ourselves, how restrained or tamed was Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran? We all know that the United States has put tremendous pressure on Israel to tone down this retaliatory strike, to not hit the country's nuclear-related sites, to not hit the country's oil export-related sites, but only to hit military bases or military-related sites. And Israel apparently ascended to the American request, avoided hitting those more strategic sites. Now, many of us, of course, were disappointed, or were hoping for the last 3 weeks that Israel would exploit this opportunity, this unprecedented opportunity, to take out the Iranian nuclear program, as well as to destroy that country's economic engine, which is its oil exports. But Israel didn't. And the main reason, of course, from the American point of view, was that America was afraid that if Israel went after these things, the war would explode in intensity, and as well as becoming a much larger war in the Middle East, and this would harm Kamala Harris's chances in getting elected on November 5th, because the prices of oil around the world, even here in the United States, would skyrocket. So that was the American interest in taming Israel's response on Iran. But Israel also had an interest in having a much toned down attack on Iran, which was to give Iran a chance to climb down from the tree and find an honorable way out of a war that's been costly for both Israel and Iran. Because if Israel would have attacked the country's nuclear and oil-related sites, Iran would have been so desperate, it would have felt that the very regime now was endangered, and it would have been that it would have responded against Israel with what remains of its 2,000 to 3,000 ballistic missiles, which would overwhelm Israel's anti-defense, its famous anti-defense missile batteries, comprised of the Arrow 3, David Sling, the Iron Dome, and now the American THAAD anti-ballistic missile system, which has been deployed on Israel's soil. And therefore, by lowering the intensity of its retaliation on Iran a couple of nights ago, Israel provided Iran with an opportunity to basically try to save face and get out of this war before it takes such an intensity that it would be damaging to both Israel but fatal to Iran's regime. But even in this toned down response, Israel achieved a notable accomplishment, which what I just said was it set back Iran's ballistic missile manufacturing process by hopefully at least 2 years. And it also took out Iran's anti-aircraft missile defense system. In other words, its ability to shoot down Israeli aircraft, both in that last attack as well as future attacks, has also been set back by several years in Israel's taking out of all the Russian S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems that Russia had supplied Iran with over the past couple of years, said to be some of the best in the world, and Israel was able to take out all of those batteries deployed throughout Iran, which is a huge country. If you consult a map of the Middle East and see just how large Iran is and how far and wide these S-300 systems were deployed throughout Iran, then you will realize that that was an accomplishment in its own right. The sky is now not even the limit for Israel, and future attacks on Iran it will take years for Iran to recover those abilities as well. Its abilities to shoot down hostile or enemy aircraft over its territory. So, rather than get into every single detail of this attack, some of which is still cloaked in mystery because Iran is not an open society, its media is not openly revealing what Israel attacked, and therefore many of the details have been left for guesswork. Rather than venture into all sorts of directions for which we don't have definite information, I decided to stick on this one thing alone, the planetary mixers. By destroying the planetary mixers that Iran relied on China for its supply, Israel has set back that country's ballistic missile program by about 2 years, and it's on such ballistic missiles that nuclear warheads would be carried as well in a future war against Israel. This is Steve, the tour guide, closing this update, wishing you a wonderful weekend, and hopefully next week I'll be able to upload another episode in the series Making Sense of the End Times, in which we're going to explore Islamic replacement theology as well as Islam's own eschatology, without which you can't understand why Iran is sworn to Israel's destruction. Why is Iran, a country that's not Arab and which is 1,000 miles away from Israel, doesn't share any borders with the country whatsoever, why is it sworn to Israel's destruction? For no other reason than Islam. And we have to explore that, and we'll explore it in the coming week. This is Steve, the tour guide, bidding you a wonderful Sunday, that you enjoy the beautiful fall season before it's over. It's too short a season, and it's my favorite season. Steve, the tour guide, signing off. Bye-bye.